Dear students, let us start the discussion on 25th February 2016 Indian Express newspaper. The section 124A and the detail of the section 124A is already discussed for you in the context of Hindu newspaper. But however, let us try to understand a bit more. A counter argument to this. In Hindu, it was clearly said that the section 124A is against to the freedom of speech and expression, and it is not within the scope of the reasonable restrictions imposed under Article 19 subclause 2, so it shall be scrapped. On counter to this article argues that the section 124A is meant to use in exceptional circumstances. So one or the other two incidents of misuse will not make the entire law irrelevant, and there is no empirical data or empirical analysis which was undertaken before making or judging the law as irrelevant for today. So in this context, already there is an established provision. The section 124A, that is related to the sedition charges, can only apply if the words are meant to incite violence or are causing any law and order disturbance. The Supreme Court of India in Kedarnath Singh versus State of Bihar has clearly established this precedent. And before independence, Sir Justice Mayor also has clearly stated the same principle. So in the era of growing terrorism, Naxal violence, a strong law is very much necessary. So in this case, the section 124A can strengthen the arms of the state to control this violence which is structured and organized against the state and its people. Coming to the smart disinvestment, this article, from 2014 onwards, if you observe, government is making a huge target for the disinvestment. And it is not even reaching close to 15 to 20% of the targets it set for itself. So, many a times the government's explanation is the weak market sentiment or condition. In today's private investment, where the private sector is not showing interest towards opening its purse strings, we cannot expect the disinvestment to move forward. So, the government, even during the peaks of the economy, the disinvestment targets were never reached. So if you take before 2008 and after 2014, the economy was in a good shape. But in spite of this, we were unable to achieve the disinvestment targets. It means the enthusiasm with bureaucracy towards the disinvestment appears to be less. So the smart disinvestment has to occur. So the government decision towards disinvesting the majority stakeholder or strategic stakeholder in the public sector undertakings that are profit making is a good development. So the government has to move forward in this direction. And the next is Shanti Bhushan's article, Disagree and Don't Label. With regard to JNU students' agitation, if you carefully observe over there, many of these have questioned the supreme merit of the judgment given by the Supreme Court in reference to the Afzal Guru hanging, and also they have demanded for the autonomy for Kashmir. So do they become anti-national is the question which is posed over here. As per our freedom of speech, we can question the merit of the Supreme Court judgment, but we cannot scandalize its judgment. And the independent or autonomy movements, they are existing throughout the world. But how mature the state is to respond to them is making a difference. Even the Scotland in the case of Great Britain, Quebec in the case of Canada, and in our South Asia, Britain, Sri Lanka, everywhere these movements are existing. Now, the Canada and Britain showed a mature way of response to these particular demands. So, and the issue was kept before the people to make a judgment. So, the demands for autonomy or independence are everywhere. So how peacefully we can settle these particular issues, it shows the maturity and merit on the part of the state. coming to the are you anti-national? This question, this topic, it has analyzed the various aspects in the post-independent India. So one way it has given a detail about the post-independent India. Now it has divided the post-independent India into total 5 phases. So the first is the constitutional preparation phase. At this time, the right wing was represented by the RSS and Hindu Mahasabha. Next is the leftist movement was taking a consolidated shape at this point of time. So initially, at the Telangana movement, the leftists want to create a socialistic state within a by the communist or people's movement. But this idea was dropped, and finally the movement of Indian military has freed the Hyderabad state from the clutches of the Nizam. Now, 1947 to 1962, this is the Nehruvian era. In this case, the Congress or INC was in ruling, and right is represented by RSS, left is represented by the Communist Party, was the opposition. Now, the leftist party, it was able to gain the power in Kerala, and also it was sitting in opposition in the parliament. The Nehruvian era, it has given squarely an reconciliation and free expression of views and opinions for the leftists. It has facilitated for their accommodation in democracy. So, initial phase, that is centered around the ideals of the liberal constitution and building of the nation along with these ideals. So the second thing at this point of time is Nehru as vehemently opposed to the right-wing nationalism. According to Nehru, they are more like the fascists of Italy, and their majoritarianism is threat to the unity of India, and he saw that as anti-national. Now, the China War in 1962 is a defining moment in Indian history, and followed by India-Pakistan War. So, at this point of time, there was a huge crisis-like situation. So, in this case, majorly, the focus has shifted towards the nation building and controlling the crisis situation in the country. So, Lal Bahadur Shastri as a Prime Minister, he has given a slogan for Jai Jawan and Jai Kisan. And also the Green Revolution was initiated. Then comes the Indira era. It is from 1965 onwards. But however, or 67 onwards, sorry. However, the Indira has gained the power, true power in 1972. After the victory in Bangladeshi War, Bangladeshi Liberation War being successful, Indira psychophancy has increased in Congress. And Indira was equated with Durga. The India is Indira, Indira is India was the slogan given by the then Congress President Mr. Barua. So, in this phase, the emergency has provided for every person who has opposed the view of the state, considered them as anti-national, and was jailed. And the growth of the right-wing politics along with the JP movement and legitimacy to the right wing has occurred during this particular stage. It has defined the next other phases in the Indian politics. Now 1980s onwards, the Rajiv Gandhi era has come in 1984. This particular phase is the bloodiest phase in Indian history, where Indira Gandhi was killed, and also the right-wing politics Ayodhya issue has come to the central stage. So Shah Bano case is another defining moment. So the cleavages of the society on religious lines has increased during this particular phase, that is during the Rajiv Gandhi era. And on the other hand, the nationalist movements have raised in Assam, Punjab, and also in a few of the northeastern states. So this era is also called as a reconciliatory phase because Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi has shown maturity to reconcile the interests of the different groups and to accommodate their interests in the national agenda. But after this, the 1990s onwards, the strengthening of the right wing was clearly visible, and India is getting more and more identified with a notion of development that is centered around state-defined developmental idea. So anything which is questioned, any NGO which is questioned now is being labeled as anti-national. Along with that, the religiously cleavaged community, the state power to slowly started moving into the right-wing politicians, and the RSS started giving strength to its Hindutva line that is defining the national and anti-national debate now. This is about this article. Now, prove innocence. The police commissioner of Delhi, Bassi, told to the JNU students. So, is this permissible under law? So, the established legal principle is this: no person is guilty unless proven otherwise. It means the prosecution shall establish the guilt of the individual, and unless that guilt is established, he is presumed to be innocent. So the presumption of guilt, it means the burden of proof shall lie on the accused. That is called presumption of guilt. It is available only in exceptional circumstances. Now, Indian Evidence Act and POTA, TADA and Prevention of Corruption Act, they provide for the presumption of guilt on the part of the accused. They have to prove themselves that they are not guilty of the cause. Coming to the ideas page, a deep malaise, what this article says is, now the terror is a daily visible or significant part in our daily life. So in this case, to what extent we are prepared to face this terror, our counter-terror institutions, how strong they are. So any institution need finances, personnel, clearly defined functions, standard operational protocols, etc. Indian counter-terror institutions, they suffer from lack of finances, proper training, proper institutional setup, and also the sufficient number of staff. So in this context, how to make our fight effective against the terrorism, how to improve our intelligence gathering is a major question. If not, India will be a victim of serious terror attacks. Now, on the other hand, the next question is related to economy. Finance Minister's fiscal deficit dilemma. So what is this? Now, the medium term fiscal statement, it has clearly stated that the fiscal deficit target for this year is 3.5% of GDP, and it has to be 3% by 2017-18. So on the other hand, the revenue deficit target is 2%. Effective revenue deficit target has to be 0% by 2017-18. So in this context, if you see this year, the fiscal deficit target appears to be achievable, but however, we are going to fall short of the revenue deficit. It means the government is achieving the fiscal deficit not by decreasing the revenue expenditure, but cutting down on the capital expenditure. So this is going to compromise the long-term interests of the development and growth prospects, which are essential for the employment generation. So the government can take the leverage to expand its fiscal deficit to provide an impetus for the capital investment and to facilitate the growth. And coming to the Haryana Panchayat law. Now remember this statement. The universal adult franchise, the voting right to everyone, it is not just a political idea. It has many far-reaching social consequences. Hitherto, the people who did not have the access to the right to vote, now they are able to see their power to change the social system or their closeness to the institutions of power. So that's why universal adult franchise in India is more an agent of social change. So the Haryana Panchayat law, which provides for educational qualifications, it restricts the choice of voters and also the right of the representation for the people. Especially the weaker sections, the scheduled castes, are worst affected. More than 60% of the women and 40+% of the men from the scheduled castes will become ineligible to contest the elections under the Haryana Panchayat law. Now coming to the rural India, the Prime Minister Gram Sadak Yojana, it was analyzed over here. This is a beautiful page, I will say. There is a comparison with MG Narega. Now what is the comparison over here? MG Narega is also creating the assets. The Prime Minister's Gram Sadak Yojana, Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana is also creating the assets. But the assets created by PMGSY are durable, but it is not the same with the case of MG Narega. It is amenable for better monitoring, but that is not the case with MG Narega. Most of the states that got benefited from MG Narega, these are the developed states that have the better governance. Because it is a demand-driven program, the people from the well-developed states are able to take the benefits of MG Narega. On the other hand, under Prime Minister Gram Sadak Yojana, the states will get a definite allocations based on the availability of the infrastructure. Because of this, Madhya Pradesh, followed by Rajasthan, UP, Bihar, most of them are Bimaru states. They are beneficial. So because of this, balanced development was a possibility. And these roads have provided for equity efficiency because they have increased the productivity on the rural side and gave them the market connectivity and unleashed the potential of the micro enterprise in the rural areas. So from this context, we can say the Prime Minister Gram Sadak Yojana is a highly successful initiative. And another reason why at the policy level it is so successful, there is a definite flow of revenues in spite of the change in governments for the Gram Sadak Yojana. So in this context, we can say it is a more effective antidote for poverty because it maintains a sustainable growth in the rural areas by giving them access to markets and also creating new markets in the rural areas. On the other hand, MG Narega programs, they are a response to a distress and to provide for a relief in the emergency circumstances. So the long-term sustainable alternative is mostly the Prime Minister Gram Sadak Yojana, which provides for the durable assets to the people. So thank you very much. And the Indian Express articles are really good. And try to follow these videos regularly. And as I promised it to you, I am trying to establish my schedule with regard to Indian Express. But to the most possible extent, I will try to give them by evening. But for sure, the morning you get your Hindu video. I mean, if my time permits, I try to accommodate the Indian Express too in the morning. But as of now, my promise is Hindu is in the morning and Express is in the evening. On Sunday, I don't do the video. Thank you very much. All the best.